What if your worst nightmare wasn't just a dream? What if it was a door opening to something far worse, something waiting for you in the dark? Tonight, you will face a terror that will shatter everything you believe about fear itself. It started with a whisper, barely audible, like a secret carried on the wind. She thought it was just her imagination, but the whisper grew louder, twisting into voices she couldn't escape. What were they saying? And why did her heart pound so fast? The lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness for a heartbeat. When they returned, the shadows had shifted, forming shapes that shouldn't exist. She blinked, but the shapes stayed, watching her with hollow eyes. Was this still a dream, or something worse? Her breath caught as the door creaked open on its own. No wind, no one there. Just the cold, empty silence that screamed louder than any noise. She stepped closer, heart hammering, and saw the darkness inside wasn't empty at all. From the darkness, a figure emerged, twisted, distorted, but eerily familiar. It smiled with too many teeth, eyes burning with a hunger that chilled her soul. She wanted to run, but her feet were frozen. Was this the nightmare she couldn't wake from? She screamed, but no sound escaped. The figure reached out, fingers like claws, brushing her cheek with a coldness that burned. Suddenly, the room twisted, walls melting into black smoke. She was trapped inside a nightmare that fed on her terror. Time lost meaning. Seconds stretched into hours, or maybe days. She wandered through endless corridors of shifting shadows, each step echoing with whispers of forgotten fears. What was real? And was there any way out of this living nightmare? Suddenly, a door appeared, glowing faintly with a strange light. Hope surged inside her, but as she reached for the handle, the whispers turned into screams. The door slammed shut before her fingers could touch it. Was this nightmare mocking her hope? She fell to her knees, tears blurring her vision. The figure returned, closer now, its grin wider, eyes burning brighter. It whispered her darkest secrets, the fears she buried deep inside. How could it know? Was this nightmare born from her own mind? Desperation turned to rage. She screamed at the nightmare, demanding it leave. But the figure only laughed, a sound like breaking glass. It promised to stay, to haunt her forever. Could she fight something that lived inside her own fear? Suddenly, the nightmare vanished, leaving her alone in silence. Relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. The walls began to bleed shadows, creeping closer like living ink. The nightmare wasn't gone. It was evolving, becoming something even more terrifying. She ran, heart pounding, but the shadows followed, twisting into monstrous shapes. Each step felt heavier, as if the darkness was pulling her down. Was this the end? Or was there a way to turn the nightmare against itself? In a sudden flash, she remembered an old lullaby her mother sang, a song about light chasing away darkness. Clutching the memory, she whispered the words. The shadows recoiled, hissing like wounded beasts. Could hope be her weapon in this endless night? But the nightmare was cunning. It twisted her memories, turning love into fear, hope into despair. Faces she trusted morphed into grotesque masks. Was she losing her mind, or was the nightmare rewriting her reality? She stumbled into a room filled with mirrors, each reflecting a different version of herself, broken, terrified, angry. One mirror cracked, and a cold hand reached out. Was this the nightmare, trying to pull her into its world forever? Panic surged as she smashed the mirror with her fist. The hand vanished, but the nightmare's voice echoed, promising she could never escape. Was this a trap or a challenge? She had to find the truth before the nightmare consumed her completely. Suddenly, a small glowing orb appeared, floating before her. It pulsed with warmth and light, a stark contrast to the darkness. Could this be a beacon, a guide through the nightmare? Or was it another trick to lure her deeper into fear? She followed the orb through twisting corridors, each step revealing fragments of forgotten memories. Faces smiled, places felt familiar. Was this the nightmare's weakness, her own past? Could remembering who she was break the spell? But the nightmare fought back, sending waves of cold darkness that clawed at her mind. She stumbled, nearly lost to the void. The orb flickered, dimming. Would her hope survive the nightmare's final assault, or was she doomed to be lost forever? Summoning every ounce of strength, she reached out and grasped the orb tightly. Light exploded, pushing back the darkness with a blinding force. The nightmare screamed, its form unraveling like smoke in the wind. Was this the end, or just the beginning? The world around her shifted, colors returning, warmth flooding her senses. She was back in her room, dawn breaking through the window. But something was wrong. The orb pulsed faintly in her hand, a reminder that the nightmare was never truly gone. She tried to tell herself it was over, that the nightmare was just a dream. But at night, when the world grew quiet, the whispers returned. The orb's glow flickered, and the shadows stirred. Was the nightmare waiting for her to fall asleep again? One night, the whispers formed words, calling her name, promising secrets and power if she would only listen. The orb pulsed stronger, tempting her. Could she resist the nightmare's lure, or would she be drawn back into its dark embrace? Her reflection in the orb's light flickered, showing a version of herself smiling with cold eyes. Was this who she could become if she gave in? The nightmare was not just outside, it was inside her, waiting to take control. Fear and desire warred inside her. To fight meant pain and loneliness, but to surrender meant losing herself forever. The orb's glow grew brighter, the whispers louder. Could she find the strength to break free, or was she already lost? In a moment of clarity, she shattered the orb against the floor. Light exploded, and the whispers turned to screams. The nightmare's hold weakened, but the cost was clear. Part of her would always remain in the darkness. The room fell silent. She was alone, but stronger. The nightmare was broken, but its shadow lingered like a scar. She knew it could return, but now she had a choice, to face it or be consumed forever. As dawn broke again, she stepped outside, feeling the warmth of the sun on her skin. The nightmare was a part of her story, but it no longer controlled her. She was ready to live, to fight, and to never look back. But deep in the shadows, something watched. The nightmare was patient, waiting for the moment she let her guard down. The battle was far from over, and the worst nightmare was yet to come. She turned, sensing the presence, heart racing. The nightmare smiled, no longer just a dream, but a living terror. This time, she would not run. The worst nightmare had become her reality, and the fight for her soul had only just begun.